Hello there, everyone. This is Mike from the Silver Screen podcast. Apologies for the intrusion. Just a little bit of sad business before we start the episode. About a day after DK finished recording this episode, we got the really sad news that unfortunately the actor David Warner has passed away. I know he is a favourite actor of myself and DK. We were both fortunate enough to have met him. And he's just the nicest, or was just the nicest guy. And the phrase legend or acting legend gets thrown around a lot, but in his case it really was true. You will know him from hundreds of film and TV roles, voice roles, some of the most iconic stuff. He's touched the Star Trek fan base, Doctor Who, horror, geeky movies, everything from Spider-Man to Ninja Turtles, and he was just a genuine bona fide legend. And I know that DK would agree with me that we both here at the podcast just wanted to express our extreme sadness at his loss at the age of 80, and just to send our condolences to fellow fans and to his friends and family. And without any further ado, I would just cross over to DK. But just a quick other bit of business. This was DK's first episode recording without me. I'm not in the episode, so you won't have to hear me beyond this. You'll be glad to hear. But unfortunately, DK did sort of jump the gun a little bit, did get a little bit excited. So there is a slight disconnect because the recording did cut off the very start of his intro. So if it seems a little bit jarring, that's why there was only like a minute or so, I think, cut from the start of the intro. But with that in mind, I'm going to cross over to DK now for the rest of the episode. And once again, RIP to David Warner. Thanks.
I'm DK. Mike's taking a break this week as he runs around like a podcasting headless chicken, working himself to the bone. But fear not, it's not just my dull old self you'll be listening to. Joining me today is first-time guest Nick. How you doing, man?
DK, you son of a bitch. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Nice one. I should stress to the audience that Nick and I go way back. Isn't that right, Nick?
We do, yes. More years than I care to remember.
Yes, more years than I can remember.
Yeah, very much so. Old friends, with the old being the emphasised word there.
True answer, never spoken. Also joining us today is Melina, YouTube streamer, and another first-timer to this show, who she kindly had me on her show to talk about the Amityville horror a couple of weeks ago. How are you doing, Melina?
I'm fine. I got no time to bleed. Just get it.
We get it.
Nice
How are you both today? Looking forward to it?
Yes.
Very, very much so, yeah. The quotes are already coming thick and fast, so that bodes well.
Right, well, as usual, a warm welcome to the regular listeners out there. Glad to see you back. And a huge hello and big friendly hug to those of you joining us for the first time. Both ready to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's
Cool.
go. Let's get to the chopper.
Oh my God, we're going to run out of quotes by the time we get halfway through.
Yeah, that's off my list already.
Yeah, I keep looking down thinking, shit, that's been used. Shit, that's been used. Right. Now, our episode today looks at, obviously, the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger film Predator, first in what turned out to be an eventual monster franchise. And for clarification, Mike, if you're listening, that's the actual Predator movie, not the Borough Predator, so no Palmore for you. Now, some would say that the Predator sequels prove the law of diminishing returns, but Disney's hoping to book that trend with their upcoming movie Prey, set to debut on Disney Plus this week. However, in this episode, we'll be concentrating on the original and, let's be honest, the best film in the series. Now, it came about in 1984 under the working title of Hunter. After the release of Rocky IV, there was a joke circulating in Hollywood that now Balboa had run out of earthly opponents, the only thing left for him to fight at that point would be something not of this earth. I believe it was the shorthand was something like Rocky versus E.T. Anyway, screenwriters Jim and John Thomas took that joke and ran with it, turning it into a screenplay, the aforementioned Hunter, which saw a group of alien hunters coming to Earth to seek out a number of targets. The Thomas brothers attracted little attention in Hollywood at that time due to their novice stature, and after little success, slipped the script under the door of 20th Century Fox producer Michael Levy, who brought it to the attention of Joel Silver. Silver made the decision to turn it into a big budget film, having the script streamlined from a band of alien hunters and targets to the one sole creature and opponent, and bringing on board co-producer Lawrence Gordon and John McTiernan to direct his first studio film. Now, a producer on the reasonably successful Schwarzenegger movie Commando, Silver brought the script to the attention of his old work colleague Schwarzenegger, who suggested some revisions, removing the now one-on-one aspect of the script and adding a team of commandos as fellow protagonists to flesh out the concept. He signed onto the movie shortly afterwards. Filming began in '86, and it was released on June the 12th, '87, shooting straight to #1 in the US box office on its first weekend. And the rest, as I say, is history. The Predator franchise quickly became one of Fox's most valued properties, and serious missteps aside, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, it's got a loyal cult following to this day. Now, how familiar are you guys with this series? I'm wondering when you both first saw the original movie, have you got any memories related to it or anything?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is very much my era, having been a Callow youth when it was released. I didn't see it at the cinema, but it was very much of my time. And it was the big 80s action film sort of period. It's interesting, I didn't know that it was, I didn't know that it started from a joke, but you mentioned Rocky, and of course, back in the 80s, there was a big rivalry between Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
I was always an Arnie man, but yeah, it's something I've seen many times over many years. But yeah, way back, it had been on video, I think, when I first saw it, and yeah, it's stayed with me ever since. I think it still holds up today. Don't want to get too far into the review yet, but it's one I could always put on and watch.
So, and how about you, Melina?
Well, I was born in '88.
Oh,
So, yeah, I'm sorry if I made anybody feel old, but yeah, I was born in '88. But
You're
I've
younger than the
al-
film.
I always say this, that one of the things I did when I was a kid is watch a lot of movies, especially English movies. Being I'm from Puerto Rico, so the way I learned English was watching a lot of movies. My dad loves a lot of these kind of action, Rambo style movies, and my dad
yeah.
actually thought it was that style until um he was confused because I remember watching it the first time watching it as a kid. I remember a lot of explosions, blood, and this monster looking guy. That was my first impression when I was a kid. Now I
I think
did
that's
not.
actually a really good synopsis of the film, but carry on, yeah.
It is, and I remember the screeching and just blood and explosion. But like, I didn't understand anything because I was just learning English. But then when I was getting older, and the second impression again is just basically like it's what do I say, it's great. It's a great action film because you don't even know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
First time I saw it, I missed that scene at the start, with the spaceship.
Really?
Yeah, so when I saw it, it got about halfway through, and I was just, I'll be honest, I was bored shitless. I just thought it was your typical macho guys with guns running around the jungle pulling a Rambo kind of thing.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it wasn't
It does.
until...
I mean, it does very much, if you, especially if you miss that first scene, because it starts, again, don't want to get too deep into it at this point, but it starts and you think, oh, it's going to be a big space opera type film with that sort of 30 seconds at the beginning. And then suddenly it's just a straight ahead military action thriller action film before you really know anything's happening. So yeah, absolutely. It does
Yeah,
a ramp pull.
threw me off completely. Well, we'll get round to it. We'll get to discuss your thoughts on it in just a moment. But before that, as our regular listeners will know, it's time for us to take a look behind the scenes with our usual spot of trivia. So once again, Mike, when you get to the editing, please bring on that Top of the Pops countdown music. So going behind the scenes, we're going to begin with the Van Damme stuff. Many still believe that the Predator was played by the muscles from Brussels. While erroneous, it's not entirely inaccurate. Van Damme was originally hired as the creature, though at that point the design of the thing was entirely different, with the thing more closely resembling an arthropod. The idea was that martial artists would make the Predator agile and, quote, ninja-like. However, the costume proved to be too cumbersome, and Van Damme couldn't make the required movements in the suit. The actor was also reportedly prone to complaining on set about having to wear the suit due to it being both too hot, which caused him to pass out on several occasions, and preventing his lovely face from being seen on screen. Van Damme was finally removed from the movie, or quit, depending on who you talk to, officially because it was too short. At 5'9", he was felt to not be imposing enough when facing Schwarzenegger and his team, who came in at roughly between 6'2" and 6'5", leading to his replacement by Kevin Hall at 7'2". However, the making of Predator, if it believes we can kill it, still shows Van Damme in a blue screen suit filming the Hole in the Jungle effects. Now, though physically portrayed by Kevin Hall, he did not provide the audio for the creature. Does anyone know who actually provided the voice?
Oh, I think I do actually. Is it Optimus Prime? Is it?
It is. It is. I couldn't get over that. I was shocked. Yeah, it was actually Cullen who came up with the clicking sound of the Predator 2, as when he was asked to provide the voice, he got no idea what it would sound like. And after convincing the producers to show him the design of the thing, which, they were kind of reluctant to do so at that point, he thought the creature resembled the dying horseshoe crab and decided to provide the voice for it on those terms. It was a kind of gurgling sound at the beginning. However, Cullen had just finished recording another job where he'd voiced 11 reels worth of voice acting for King Kong, and at that point he was literally coughing up blood. To make it easy on his voice, he came up with the clicking sound on the fly, which remains as the recognised sound of the thing to this day. So, yeah, I don't know.
That is fascinating. Nose popping up blood, so good on the man.
I know, he's a bit of a trooper.
Yeah.
Now, Shane Black, who plays Hawkins, came up with the jokes he tells in the film. He also wasn't entirely happy with the wardrobe choices for his character. He was originally supposed to wear a red beret worn by US paratroopers, but refused to do so, thinking he'd look ridiculous. He later regretted that decision, as he felt that in the end it would have made his character stand out more. The one thing that did make his character stand out, however, were his glasses, which he hated. He wanted to wear military-issue ballistic glass, but director John McTiernan refused, making him wear the geeky glasses, as he wanted him to look as big a nerd as possible. Now, Schwarzenegger recommended Jesse Ventura for Blaine, thinking him perfect for the part. Now, Ventura was a bit of a prankster on set. He teased Schwarzenegger about his upcoming marriage to Maria Shriver, often ruining takes and pissing off the director. He also showed up to the gym early one morning and covered himself in water to make it appear to a newly arrived Schwarzenegger that Ventura had been working out for a lot longer than he was. Schwarzenegger got a bit jealous of this. As a result, Schwarzenegger began to show up today to make use of the gym. Ventura found out about this and then began to arrive earlier to one-up him, with both men attempting to outdo each other to the point where they were both turning up to work at the gym at 4 a.m. So, yeah. Now, real Venom... You what, mate?
I was just going to say, that's the kind of macho bullshit you'd expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to step on your toes here, but there's another story I know about Jesse and Arnie.
Go for it.
But there was this real rivalry, and the wardrobe staff apparently told him, Jesse, that his arms measured 1 inch thicker than Schwarzenegger's, which absolutely delighted him, of course. So he had a bet with Schwarzenegger for a bottle of champagne for who had the biggest arms. So one morning they measured them, And what do you know? Arnie won. His arms were bigger. It turned out he'd told the wardrobe staff to tell Jesse Ventura that his arms were bigger so that he would forfeit his.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh,
That's one of my favourites. Again, more of that macho bullshit.
You don't do that to a goddamn sexual tyrannosaur.
Absolutely.
Now, real venomous snakes and scorpions were used in the filming, with several scenes shot in foul, stagnant water, which was full of leeches. It was so bad that Kevin Hall on record stating that it wasn't a movie production, it was a survival story. Now, you'd think that because of this, the insurance company would have a problem. They did, but not for those reasons. The studio's insurance wouldn't cover the production for one issue only, and that was unless a bodyguard was hired for Sonny Landon, who played Billy. Although not for the reason you might think. Sonny Landon's bodyguard was there to protect everyone from Sonny. He was known to have a short temper and be quite violent on occasion. The bodyguards had to follow Sonny around for the duration to make sure he didn't get into a fight with any of the other cast members. Then the insurance company relented and finally agreed to insure the film. And finally, despite the many problems and efforts to get the creature right, the Predator itself has only 8 minutes total screen time. So,
8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I discovered looking into the production. Do either of you guys have any more trivia related to the movie that you think's interesting?
I think the part, when Arnie was covered in mud, it was actually clay, and I'm not sure. I think he got sick one time. He got cold because that clay, it gets it gets pretty cold.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most challenging part for him to film, was those scenes where he has to cover himself in mud, which was really clay, because it really felt cold. His body temperature dropped.
Yeah, as it
I'm guessing
dries.
also kind of, once it started to dry, it started restricting his movement, I would have thought also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just imagine at the end of one of those days, somebody having to chisel him out.
Well, believe it or not, I actually invited Schwarzenegger on as a guest. I managed to contact his people in the hopes we could maybe ask him a couple of questions, but unfortunately, I had no joy on that front. Well, duh.
I thought you were going to say, and now?
Yeah,
Here it is.
as much as I would love to. I mean, it's a shame. I'd love to talk to him about his career. If by some crazy twist of fate, Mr. Schwarzenegger or someone close to him is listening to this, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you, obviously. Now,
do a follow-up one on any of his films. He can name them.
So we're going to put your Arnie knowledge to the test now, you two.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because normally after this section, we go straight into discussing the movie. However, because it's both of your first time on the show, I thought we'd do things a little differently this time and see just how much you know your Arnie movies with a little game I like to call Almost Total Recall.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
Okay.
it took me ages to think of that, and it's still shit. I am aware. Don't worry about it. Now,
No, it's in keeping. Yes, definitely on brand.
fantastic. At least I'm consistent. Now, I've got a series of character names from action movies. Now, the challenge to you is if they're characters Schwarzenegger's portrayed, or any other of his action movie brethren. So what we'll do, I'll read out a name, and you two, the first person to shout out your name, gets to answer. The option goes to you. If you get it right, you score a point. However, if you get it wrong, the point goes to your opponent. For example, if I were to say Conan the Barbarian.
Nick. Yeah, Schwarzenegger.
Right, obviously.
So you say the character name. We say our name if we don't think we know it, and it's whether it was Arnie that did it or one of his action hero brethren.
Exactly.
Do we have
and
to
if
name?
You get it right, you get the point, and if you get it wrong, your opponent gets the point. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, it's just a bit of fun, and we're not quite sure if it's going to work yet. Are you both ready?
I guess.
Nick?
Yeah, I think so this time.
Okay, good. Right, here we go. Douglas Quaid.
Nick, that's Arnie. Total Recall.
Correct. So that's 1 point to you, Nick. You still with us, Melina?
Did I get it? Did I get the rules right this time?
You did.
Fantastic. That's worth a point in itself.
All right. Do you know what we're doing now, Melina?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I'm
Come
like,
on, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you.
all these roles. I can't remember. No, go ahead. Go.
All right, ready. John Matrix.
Nick, that's an Arnie. That is
Correct.
Commando, I believe.
It was from 1985. Okay.
You might be at a disadvantage here, Melina, because I was alive at the time.
Oh, come on. She can do this. She can do this. There's plenty of time here. Okay, next one.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Marion Cabretti.
Oh, wait. Oh, Melina.
Yeah, go on.
Oh fuck. Oh my God. Was it Kindergarten Cop? Was it Arnold? Kindergarten Cop? No.
It wasn't,
No.
I'm afraid. It was actually Stallone in Cobra. So I'm going to give that one to Nick.
Oh, that was so bad.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yeah, I didn't know that one at all. Yeah.
Right.
Next one.
Mr.
Next
Good,
one.
all right. Mr. Good Cat.
Not Arnie. It's a
Correct.
guess.
Correct. That's actually Bruce Willis.
Mr. Good Cat. What film is that?
Lucky number 11.
Oh, okay. Not seen it.
Right, next one. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready, Melina? Emil Rottmeyer.
Rock? What? Rock?
Emil Rottmeyer.
No. Melina, no, that's not an Arnie. It's not.
It actually is, I'm afraid.
What the?
Yeah, it's not an Arnie character name. I would have been with.
Yeah.
I would have been Melina on that if I'd have taken a stab at it.
All right, on to the next one. Lincoln Hawk.
Nick, not Arnie.
Correct. Do you know what that's from?
No, no, it's not Hudson Hawk, is it?
That was Stallone in Over the Top, that famous arm wrestling movie.
Oh, the arm wrestling movie. Yeah.
Okay, next one. John Kruger.
John Kruger?
Nick,
No.
Arnie.
Correct. That was from Eraser, 1996.
It's Eraser. I wouldn't have got that.
Okay, next one. Max Gatling.
Nick, not Arnie, not anyone. Surely no character has been called Max Gatling. That's a trick one you've made up.
You are correct, but I'm afraid I haven't made that up. That is actually Dolph Lundgren from Battle of the Damned.
No, I have not seen it. No.
Okay, next. Jericho Kane.
Nick, Arnie. End of days.
Correct. Yeah, Jesus, man. I'm looking these up and I thought these were all crazy. I can't believe you're getting these.
Yeah.
Next one.
Apparently, at my age, I have forgotten most things. But fortunately, for this very moment in my life, I managed to retain names of Arnold Schwarzenegger characters. That's brilliant.
Okay.
I've wasted my life. Carry on. Next one.
Mate, I've been writing these questions. What do you think I'm doing with mine? Right. Gordy Brewer.
Gotti what?
Brewer.
Gotti Brewer? No, okay. Gotti Brewer?
Take a stab at it. I know.
Yes. 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 Arnie. Yes.
That is correct.
Excellent.
Morphine! I finally at 1 point.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that red? It's not red heat, is it?
No, it's collateral damage.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gordie Brewer.
Remember
Yeah.
that one. Like in the early was it 1999 or 2000 something? 2000?
Yeah, 2002, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. So next one, Lee
Thank
Christmas.
God. What?
Lee Christmas.
Melina.
Go on.
Not Arnie.
You are correct again. That's actually Jason Statham. That's actually Jason Statham from The Expendables. Okay.
I was uncertain. I was going to come in and say it was. I think you were trying to trick me with the Jingle All the Way connection there.
Melina's just lost it. Next
fine.
one. Ready? Victor Freeze.
Oh, Nick,
yes. That's easy.
Name.
Sorry? Nick. Arnie.
Correct. Batman and this is going horrendously. Yeah, Batman and Robin from 1997. Okay, next one. Captain Robert Hatch.
Nick. Arnie.
That's incorrect. It's actually Stallone from 1981's Escape to Victory. So that point goes to Melina.
Yeah, I took a chance.
Okay.
Didn't pay.
We're all finish line, don't worry. Handsome Stranger.
Nick. Arnie. It was in. Was it in Welcome to the Jungle?
What did you say? Did you say Arnie or Arnie? I can't remember.
Arnie.
It was actually Arnie, but it wasn't Welcome to the Jungle. It was 1979's Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack. Wow.
You remember that?
Thankfully, no.
It's fantastic. You try and imagine a live-action Roadrunner cartoon.
I don't know if I've ever seen Cactus Jack, so
it's got Kirk Douglas.
My judgment may be unfair.
Right.
Kirk Douglas.
On to the penultimate one. Dave Ryder.
Dave Ryder.
Yeah.
Melina, not Arnie.
Correct. That was actually Red Brown from Space Mutiny.
Okay. What?
Yes. Trust me. Watch it. Especially watch the Mystery Science Theater version. You will piss yourself more than Melina is doing right now. Okay. And the final one.
Oh, the final one.
The final one. Muscle Man.
It's
wait.
just
Muscle Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to take a chance, Nick. It's an Arnie film.
It is actually an Arnie film. He played a character called Muscle Man in a film called The San Pedro Beach Bums.
Oh.
Is this before they were famous? I think. Yeah.
I'm guessing so. So that's it. And after that, the winner, proud owner of bragging rights on this podcast, is Nick.
No surprise.
How do you feel, Nick?
I'm on top of the world, mate. Absolutely overjoyed. Genuinely, because I actually remember some things, which is nice to know.
Did you have fun, Melina, at least?
Are you kidding? I haven't leveled this in a while.
Oh, well, that's good. Right. Back to the movie. I'm guessing you both recently, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure how it currently is where you are, but with temperatures they are right now here, the movie taking place in a humid jungle felt very much a 4D experience for me.
Yes, we had some extreme heat last week, but it has cooled down a bit. It's been raining today, as is
You
never
lucky
far away in
bastards.
England. Yeah, sorry, but we did have all-time highest temperatures ever in this country, so that was fun.
Nice one. Well, I mean, we'll take a look at different aspects of the movie as we go. They've got a tendency to run into each other, as you know, listen to it. And I know that you have, Nick. So as we
Yeah,
discuss things, but don't worry, we'll just, we'll get around to it. So the first thing that we're bringing up with the movie is the acting. So what were your impressions on the acting in this movie? So go for it, guys.
Do you want to start, Nick?
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, there's no denying it. That's the elephant in the room, really. But yeah, Arnie is not. Well, let's say he doesn't have the greatest range. I think that would be fair to say. But I mean, and then this applies to basically the whole cast for me. It's a bunch of really sort of macho men playing a bunch of really macho men.
Yeah.
It's not that much of a stretch for them, I don't think.
I mean, you've seen
turning that
setup
into a
with
positive.
the character
Yeah,
archetype so many times. It's not in the least bit original.
yeah.
It's basically muscle on top of muscle. Just
Yeah.
I mean, have you noticed that? Speaking of which, have you noticed that there are specific shots that they focus on the muscles? Like we have when Dylan meets Dutch, with the famous and very macho handshake, and it focused on the muscles. And then there are scenes where Arnold is just like walking around or sneaking around the jungle, and there are shots where you can see his arms, like his muscular arms. So that I don't know if that was on purpose, but it's
Oh,
it's
I think it
basically
was very
that.
much on purpose.
Yeah. Later on, when he's
There's
setting
never
up
an opportunity.
those booby traps for the predator,
Yeah.
and you think, lean off on the adoration here a little.
Yeah. I'm assuming it was contractually required. But yeah, there's never an opportunity to show flexed muscles, oiled flexed muscles at that. I mean, that's probably half the acting really in the film.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm really down on it, but I'm going to turn this into a positive. But yeah, it's a note I had actually for the directing section of this because it's you're absolutely right. I mean, I think even that hand clasp that's been turned into a meme for a number of years, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, Nick. That's how we greet each other every time we see each other.
Well, absolutely, yeah, and it looks exactly like that.
Oh, exactly.
But because it's not much of a stretch, it's actually really plausible for the characters they're playing. So you really believe these are a bunch of macho dudes in the jungle.
Yeah.
Mainly because they are a bunch of macho dudes in the jungle.
Well, they're mercenaries.
So, yeah.
They are mercenaries basically. So I don't think the focus really of this was very thought out. Like, hey, let's just add layers to this character. Let's do character development. There's nothing of that sort. It's just they're supposed to be mercenaries, and they're supposed to be focused. And they have one mission. It was a rescue mission. That was original. Like that's what they had in mind, right? So it changed drastically, obviously, and that's what I love about this movie, is because it changed completely drastically from you think it's a war kind of movie, like Rambo, something like that, and then it changed to that. But the I'm sorry, the acting. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is that the way Arnold says his lines? I crack up. I can't take it. The way he says it. The
Knock, knock.
knock knock, that part, oh my god. and that that sequence when he does the knock knock knock, and then the guy comes flying out the fucking wall. It's like, what the hell? It's like, that was just pure violence and fun. It was just explosion and explosion and one cheesy one liners, and that was basically. I mean, I don't think you don't need a good acting, really, especially when you're
No.
playing sinners. Like,
Yeah.
I really didn't care about it.
Yeah.
I do like the
It's
bit where
not.
it says, any sign of the other hostage. And you're just like, seriously, you've just leveled an entire village. The other hostage would have been lucky to not have his body parts scattered in a 5-mile circle hanging from various trees after that shit.
Very much so, yeah.
Oh, in the
But
book.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. The acting is not Oscar worthy, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be.
No.
It doesn't detract from your enjoyment of the film at all.
I mean,
I
you
would,
drive a point that they're all tough as nails. Yeah.
yeah, and you do, you don't even need the you don't even need character introductions for it. Basically, they do it all in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Just and that sort of, well, the first time you see Arnie, you know exactly who he is, and then in the chopper when they're actually starting on the mission, there's just sort of like a little scene of them all interacting,
Mm-hmm.
and you go, okay, he's the Joker,
Yeah.
he's the
Mm-hmm.
strong silent type, he's the macho tobacco chewing dude. Yeah,
It's,
they're archetypes, but you know who they are, and then you go, right, let's
yeah.
get on with it then.
And I think that chopper scene's done very well for this type of movie. You always get this exposition explaining who is who and that kind of thing. But they do it really quickly in this, and they just
Mm-hmm.
get it out of the way.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, absolutely.
goes quick. It goes quick without actually not even confusing you. Not even going like, what? No, I think the editing
Mm.
is pretty good. The editing is really good. I like how they pace themselves quickly. You see, okay, going straight to a mission. Dutch and Dylan, they have history together. That's how you
Mm.
know. And present with the mission, like Nick says, they're in the helicopter. They show all these characters, what kind of characters they are, and it's like I would say like 11 minutes into the movie, they're already in the jungle,
Mm.
and something weird is going on because they're looking for the other group that was sent on this mission. And
Yeah.
so it's like, really, it's fast paced, but without the, I guess you could say, without the confusion.
Mm.
Like something is missing, like a
Yeah.
plot hole.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of I guess I feel like actually this is more sort of about the writing really, I guess, but they do spend a lot of time on the setup,
Mm-hmm.
more than you could argue more than it needs. Because generally this film, you go get these guys in the jungle quick, and then we'll do the film. But it is that sort of rug pull as well. Maybe that was the intention. It's hard to sort of think back to the first time I saw it really, and how I felt then, because, well, it was so long ago, and it's now I'm so familiar with it, I know where it goes. Although I do always think of it as the Predator film, and there's actually 20-30 minutes of military action before that even
Yeah.
happens. So yeah.
Well,
It's a good action sequence, though, and also, I love. I'm I'm a big fan of like the camera movements, and I
Mm.
love how there are scenes where when they're moving in slowly, and how the camera follows closely to Arnold Schwarzenegger when he slides down like a snake and
Yeah.
to spy on the camp right there.
Yeah.
And there are moments where the that's what I love about it. It's just the movement, and then there are certain times where I notice that you can tell right away the when the camera is handheld. You
Yeah.
can see the movement of it, and it can be annoying. Like for example, like in Hunger Games in the first movie, usually the handheld camera is to indicate to make it feel like real, like you're
Yeah.
that person running, struggling, etc. It doesn't
Mm.
always work, but they made it work in scenes where it's like, for example, like where like they're fighting or they're kind of running, and I think that works really well with the movie. And also the focus shot. It feels like it's like, how do I say, it's like out of focus, from a distance, and all of a sudden
Mm.
it focuses in, and I
Oh,
I
yeah. Yeah.
love it.
Mm.
It's a great movie. It really is. I mean, aside from the enjoyment of it, but it's the technique that you have to really admire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. I think we might have strayed into one of the other sections slightly here,
Well,
DK. But
definitely, but it don't matter. We'll cover everything eventually, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
if we miss, no, don't worry about it.
I babble. Listen, I film student.
wait,
All right, study films, and
yeah, yeah.
babble. I babble. You need to shut me up. You say,
No,
Melina,
it's fine.
sorry about that. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, two new guests, and we messed with your format. I do apologise.
Don't worry about it. I mean, the
But,
aesthetic.
yeah,
It was a kind of a de rigueur thing at that point. It's very much a Vietnam substitute for a lot of the first half of the movie. They were doing this a lot in
yeah.
films back then. Every tough guy had a Vietnam background.
It might have been some great. I goes serious. It might have been Sonny Landham. Did a tour in Vietnam.
Oh, I didn't know
The guy who plays Billy. I think it was him. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of military guys in the cast,
that. Yeah.
and a bunch of sports guys, and a bunch of action guys, basically. Which is weird. They just basically went, where's the most macho guys we can find, and had a list of army guys and sports guys and stuff. So they brought them all in, and many of them turned to politics as well. Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
but it's quite interesting actually. Somebody should do a study on that.
It
But
did
yeah,
seem to be a
it's
thing at the time, though. This Vietnam vibe, where they're skipping up the trees at the top with Little Richard playing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. You were talking about and the handheld camera work. Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's something that is very effective in films. You mentioned Hunger Games. I'd probably say the Bourne films as well. A lot of handheld work in that. And I do love the Bourne films, but for me, it's potentially overused.
Yeah.
And you do end up feeling a bit sick. So yeah, it's one of the tools in the box for making this sort of film could be used appropriately. And I think I agree. It is in this movie.
Nice one. Now, with regards to, we've already touched upon it, but what about the writing?
I think we have touched on it. Yeah, I mean that's something I sort of felt about the writing is that there's a real economy to it, and that's sort of what we discussed in the introduction of the characters. It's a lot of show don't tell, which I think is great. I was going to say it respects the audience's intelligence,
Yeah,
which implies
always
it's a
these
very
days.
intelligent movie, but it's a fairly dumb movie, but it doesn't talk down to the audience, I don't think, and it doesn't need to explain everything. One point in particular, I guess, would be where it sort of almost strays to that line is when he crawls out of the river and he's covered in mud, and the predator comes after him and can't see him. And from this goes into the effects as well, I guess. But from the effects of the predator vision that it's kind of a heat-based thing. You get that straight away, I thought. And although Arnie doesn't see me, which was kind of stating the obvious because he looked right through him and then blew a tree up and then walked away. But it doesn't feel the need for Arnie to say, he didn't see me because I'm covered in mud, which has cooled down my body temperature, so therefore his vision must be heat. It just allows the audience to actually understand that for themselves, which, as you say, I think it's becoming the opposite of that much more these days. So I appreciate that.
I do like how you have that section with Dylan obviously lying to everybody, but I like how you get a small, I'm not going to say friendship, but you get a certain amount of respect between Mac and Dylan.
That's that's actually something I'm going to screw with your format a little bit more. I would actually single Bill Duke as Mac out for the acting. It's a low bar to reach, I guess, in this case, but and it's possibly because he gets what is the closest thing in this film to an emotional arc. Really. In that you actually see more than one side of the character, which you don't necessarily with.
Well, you have the
girl. There's no death to blame.
Sorry.
You have the girl, the Anna. You have the girl. She all she does is stare off into space, pretty much, and the only emotion I get to see is I think it was a tear running down her cheek. So, I mean, I don't know why exactly she was added there. Maybe she was added there to kind of soften up a little bit the what do you call the macho-ness and maybe for
pure levels of testosterone on display.
And Arnold to have actually maybe a purpose or something, but the actor go ahead, Nick, go ahead.
I was going to say that is interesting because I mean you could single her out because she's the only one that's not either a macho military man or a unstoppable alien killing machine, and on the face of it, you might actually ask, what was the point to her being there? Because would the events not have played out the same way?
Yeah. Part of me thinks it was just for a little exposition because she has that moment where she suggests it's a regular hunting ground for the predators.
Yeah, she has the sort of the legend she tells of something coming for trophies, and there's also maybe she was purely put in so Arnie could say to someone, "No, don't have a weapon because if you have a weapon, you will be scored."
Because she's probably there to show the innocent civilian kind of person, and to see that the creature predator is not interested in anything of that sort. He wants a challenge, and I think maybe that's why she was put there, probably just to tell a little bit of background, the legend of these creatures. But
it's a little bit of an expositional character, I guess, but in other ways handled quite well, I think. Not an obstacle to enjoyment, for me anyway.
No. Then once they started getting picked off one by one, I mean, I think it's kind of amusing that after the movie is stabbed all the way through, that Billy's not to be messed with. He has this moment where he tosses his equipment and decides to face the creature, and then it cuts to everyone else, and less than 30 seconds later, he's screaming dead.
Yeah, it's yeah, you think, oh, this guy's going to have such a good death scene now, yeah, and then off off camera. It's, yeah, a little bit disappointing, but I would note that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know if it was it scripted or filmed and deleted or anything, but yeah, it does seem a bit unfair to let him go out like that off screen.
it does. You get the impression that they were trying to show how tough the Predator was, but it kind of
Mm.
makes Billy as a character look a little weak, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I do like
you'd
that.
like to think he'd put up a big
Yeah.
fight, but yeah. Sorry, go on, Melina.
No, I'm just thinking about it. That because I noticed that I'm not sure if it's showing him to be a bit weak, because there is a scene where the predator tears off the spine and skull out
Mm,
of
Yeah.
Billy, and he does like this cry, this yell, like a victory. So
mm.
that probably was maybe like, oh, a worthy opponent, and I won. So maybe it wasn't, it was a weak, I guess, because that's, I mean, that's what the predator does. He loves and he collects this trophy, and he found Billy to be a worthy of a trophy.
Mm.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. More like.
Yeah, yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
this was, I can put this proudly amongst my collection because he was a worthy opponent kind of thing. Yeah. It's just, yeah, just not seeing it on screen.
Right.
I-
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I see both sides, but yeah, you expected to see a big fight rather than just I guess just a scream off camera immediately after it cut away from him. There's no time at all. It's just he's dead. Uh, but yeah, whether there's anything missing there or not, I don't know. But yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you, Nick, but production design wise, Blaine's gun. I don't think there was a kid in the playground back then that didn't want that thing.
The oh, what was it? Oh, what was it called? The gun.
I can't honestly remember.
I can't because Ole Painless. How can I forget that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that was just, yeah. I mean, there's probably clearly a note in the script: insert huge fucking gun here, and
definitely.
then everybody's happy. You know.
I mean, you
I
get
wonder if
that.
they all fought over who got to be the one that carried the big gun.
You get that, and then you get that scene in the village. I mean, which I honestly don't remember it being that long, or the amount of destruction that goes on. It reminded me of that scene. I don't know if you've seen it, Hot Shots Part 2, when Miguel Ferrer just turns to the camera and says, "Whoa, it's fantastic."
Oh yes,
Oh,
I remember.
it was a particularly 80s trope. It probably still is, really, but yeah, just the absolute beauty and destruction, and you know, things flying everywhere, explosions. I mean,
Stuntman,
what I like about that, yeah,
stuntman.
it's almost like the A Team, that scene.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Except people don't, just get out shaking their heads at the end.
Yeah, a slightly more lethal version of the A Team, but yeah, there's explosions, bodies fly everywhere, and or people are on fire, all that stuff. It's yeah, and yeah, just convulsing as riddled with bullets. Yeah, very much just absolutely glorifying the violence.
And I like
Without
how they
I
set
don't
it
without
off
know
mistake.
with a
why
perfect
I'm
Arnie
laughing.
moment. They set it
Say
off with
again, sir.
they set it off with the perfect Arnie moment because it's an Arnie, an Arnie. You've got to have him doing something, eh? So why not just have him pick up a fucking truck?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, the script was reworked, and then Arnie came on. So you know, how much of the script was reworked after Arnie came on to put in some Arnie moments.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, that's probably a problem I have with the writing in terms of and dialogue side of it. Really, is that
Right.
there are some really, and I love them like anybody does. Cheesy one-liners.
Hmm.
But in this film, a couple of them felt a little out of place. They stick around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great line when you just pin someone to a wall with a giant knife, knock, knock, and so on. But in this particular film, when they were actually kind of going for a serious military vibe at the time, a couple of those were like, yeah, maybe not.
It does
Maybe they
carry
were
on very much
just it's Arnie in the film. Yeah.
from Commando, and it kind of became his thing, didn't it, for a little while?
Yeah, very much. Yeah. And it was, it's basic. Yeah, they were probably, damned if they did, damned if they didn't, really, because the Arnie fans would see the film and go, "Where were the one-liners? Give me my money back." It's
Yeah.
so they had to put some in, but there's only a couple, but a couple of them just don't quite sit right with me.
They
But
don't
I
land.
still love them anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think the lines given to Ventura work a lot better.
Yeah.
It's. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Some of the scenes, I laughed in the Predator. Maybe I'm too cynical or something, but I started laughing every time I see the people flying around. It's like, I don't know why. I just thought it was
Yeah.
like wee wee. But also, there's if you've seen Hot Shots Part 2,
Uh,
have you seen it with Charlie Sheen and
Yeah,
Hot Part 2? I don't know why there's a couple of moments there that remind me of the movie.
yeah.
And I don't know why I started laughing. And but it's over the top. It's absolutely
Hmm.
throwing grenades and then flying.
it does take it to the point of absurdity sometimes in that village scene.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the trampoline budget on that film. It must have been huge.
And in the car when he gets
Uh,
the car,
yeah.
the dude is
Lifting the car up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, what we want you to do in this scene, Arnie, is run up and just kick out the blocks under the car, so it'll just roll down the hill and explode and everything. So can you do that? It's like, I've got a better idea. And it's just, and then
you can tell
yeah,
that he's been wanting to do that. He like just a way to show off that he can
mm,
lift. That that, that that's what it. You can tell that's what he wanted to do.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, again, it's an Arnie film. Whatever sort of other
You
pretensions it might
become
have.
conditioned to expect things.
So yeah, it's kind of got to be in there. Got to have those flexing muscles, and yeah, it's like I need to lift something really heavy. I can't do a very good Arnie, and yeah, the chances of him appearing are just dropping through the floor at the moment. I was going to go on this podcast, but you know what? I listened to one, and they just talk shit about me, so I'm not going in
Fuck them.
there. Anyway, so
We're, on the,
where were we?
we're kind of drifted into direction now. And one of the notes I've
Yeah.
got is, the use of live animals, the stabbing and squishing the scorpion, kicking the vulture. There's no way you'd be able to get away with stuff like that now.
Oh, right. I didn't watch the end of the credits actually, and so I didn't notice if there was the standard notice from the American Humane Society. No animals were harmed. I mean, it was what filmed
Yeah,
presumably prior to
yeah.
87, so yeah, regulations may not have been as enforced. Yeah, that's.
I think that was down to pretty much everything. As I say, it was more a survival than a movie production. I mean, the section where Arnie drops on the waterfall, the stuntman just busted his knee doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, McTiernan were very much in demand straight after this. He went on from this to immediately make Die Hard and Red October, and as you said earlier, he went on to work with Arnie again, albeit in a less successful capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was a very early film of his. I didn't realize it was his first studio film. I think he did one before it, but it wasn't a studio film, presumably.
No.
I mean, it's remarkably accomplished for a first studio film. And imagine the egos he was dealing with.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I don't know what guys like at all, actually. Interviews or seeing them on anything, but wrangling that in the height of
he's had quite a lot of legal trouble since. Apparently, I'm not sure what's gone on. I didn't really want to pry into it, but
yeah. All right, because he's not made a lot of films, but yeah, he did have a good run, really good run, and yeah, you can see it in this film. I mean, it's a really you wouldn't peg it as a first time director, certainly. I don't think.
Definitely not.
And it's interesting because it's what is this film? Maybe it's a military film, it's a sci-fi film, it's a horror film, probably above anything else. For me, the direction of it, the building, the suspense, and slow reveals and jump scares, and yeah, in the 80s, there's quite a lot of blood splattered around as well. It's actually quite a gory film.
I think he's done well in the fact that he's taken so many disparate elements that had become mundane and bored, and he's combined them all into a whole that's actually it rises above other movies of the time. Everybody you can't look at one aspect of the film really and think that lets the movie down. Everything's kind of at the top of its game, and I think that's why it's still regarded as so iconic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it does what it sets out to do and more. And like you say, it's greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I mean, but there's something that I noticed on this watch. I don't know if you noticed it, Nick. Obviously, it's not the intent, and I'm sure it just applies to those watching from the UK. But the end credits, I realise this style's been done before, things like Blues Brothers and all that kind of stuff. But in this one, with the cast members posing for the shots at the end in this film, were it just me, or did you get a kind of hidey Dad's Army, you have been watching vibe? It's never occurred to me before, but now I cannot unsee it.
Oh no! Oh, you've destroyed the film for me forever now. That probably is a particularly sort of UK thing, with the sort of end credits of the just sort of turning to camera and smiling, winking, giving a thumbs up. Actually, there's one thing missing. Sorry, this is going to be a very UK centric joke. Apologies to all our international guests and listeners, but yeah, if it had said just after the end scene, "You have been watching," and then show the things, because that's what they used to do at the end of these sitcoms. So it would say, "You have been watching," and then it would show each of the characters with their the actor's name. So yeah, that's kind of what it was doing. Oh no, I can't unthink that now. So
well, I have to suffer it, mate. So it's on you as well now.
Yeah, thank you.
Going back to the on a more professional level, going back to the directing, both Predator in productions, the first time it's uncloaked after being injured, and then later on when it discards its mask, I think both of those are really great scenes and gives a kind of decent payoff to, obviously the hole in the jungle that you've seen up until this point.
I like, you know what I like? You can see they're throwing hints of that they're being watched, but you don't know who's watching. And you also get to see its advanced technology when it gets hurt, and you see that it has a little medical kit and has a little, it's advanced more than obviously it's not how do I say, human technology. um I also love the little cannon, the shoulder one, how it
Oh yeah,
moves.
Yeah.
That's my that's I absolutely love it. And it
yeah,
does,
that is cool AF, definitely.
that is really cool. That's actually one of the coolest thing ever. Especially I think it throws like a little, I don't know what it does. Remember the scene with I forgot his name, the cowboy dude, where he got
Billy.
distracted by
Oh no,
a
Blaine. Sorry.
Blaine, right? He got distracted by a little furry creature, and I actually love that
Hmm,
part because it wasn't a jump scare. The furry creature. It was just,
yeah.
he was just waiting, and and it came by slowly. It wasn't like a jump scare. That's what I loved about it. Usually they do that, like they jump scare. Oh, it's a cat, but no, it was went
Hmm.
slowly. Little creature, he's like, and then all of a sudden, there was like a something splashed on him, and I don't know if it does it like a mark, like to
Like
mark to,
the laser sight, is it?
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
not.
Yeah, I think that was it, and I
Yeah.
that was a, I don't know if that, I'm confused about that part because I don't know if it throws something at you like a, because I saw like a liquid that was splashed on, I forgot his name again,
Blaine.
what's his name?
Lame.
Blaine. Sorry,
Yeah.
Blaine. Have you noticed that there was something thrown at him and then there was a cannon?
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and check that out.
Check when
Yeah.
you can, check, because I actually I actually even rewinded. What I saw was that he was stunned. I don't know if that's part of another technology that I don't know or remember, but I remember he got stunned. Like all of a sudden, there was a liquid that was thrown at him. It kind of reminded me of the Dilophosaurus, where now it throws the when it spits the venom at you, which it paralyzes you,
Yeah.
or if it's a way
Oh,
to mark you,
yeah.
like
Um,
like you can't run because I already marked you. So, and that's the way to. And he shot him with the shoulder cannon. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys noticed that.
I didn't really pick up on that. I remember obviously the
no.
laser sight, and I do like the bit where Arnie throws the thing, and then he, using his sight, he figures out the trajectory of where it's been thrown from. But I can't
Mm.
remember.
Also
Yeah.
the I noticed that the what I love what I love everything about this movie, I think, is the concentration done with the creature, as in all the technology that it has. And have you noticed, like, it moves his head, and it's like the little cannon is just like, kind of, he points, um and he targets it, and then that's when the cannon shoots.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's also well done for me. I mean,
Hmm.
I think it's a lot of thought put into it. I mean, it was by the
And Winston.
Stan Stan Winston, God rest his soul. But it's absolutely amazing, the
Yeah.
thought put into the little creature.
I think the
Yeah.
creature
Real.
design's just beautiful. It's iconic. I mean, I'm glad we ended up with the creature that we did, and not. I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures
Oh
of
Original.
what it was
yeah,
before.
the
I don't
mantis.
think I have. No.
Oh man, you be glad that we got what we got.
Yeah, it looks
Well,
like
I
a
definitely will be.
praying mantis. It looks like
Yeah.
Uh,
it looks like Zorak uh from Space Ghost. He's like a
Oh
praying
god, yeah.
mantis. But they went to with the obvious design, which is, it looks like a crab like creature.
hmm.
Um, with obviously it has vocal cords, but that's another thing. It repeats, like it records
That sort of
human
mimics. Yeah.
Yeah.
mimics. There, mimics.
I mean, it doesn't get as much
Yeah.
attention compared to the visual effects, but I think the sound design for the creature and the way it imitates its prey is just really creepy. I love it. I love the way it uses Mac's voice to lure out Dylan with the anytime. And when it picks up Billy's laughter and uses it later on when it surfs off the countdown, it's still incredibly effective. And in some respects, to me, it holds up better for me than the visuals looking back at it now.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to agree with you about the creature design. I think it's absolutely extraordinary, and like you say, I forget what you say. It was 8 minutes. It was on screen for,
Yeah.
and you only see its face. You know, it's a gradual reveal. First, you see what it sees, then you see it camouflaged, then you see some of it in the suit, then you see it with the helmet, and it's only sort of 10 minutes before the end that you actually see its face, which is.
I mean, I think the mystery surrounding it. Yeah, I think the mystery surrounding it is one of its strengths. Everything's not on the table and displayed for all to see. Any first-time viewer eager to see where this is going, they're going to be kind of shocked. And the creature design's such a good payoff. It does reward the viewers, and I think this is why this one's stood the test of time in comparison both to many movies from that era. And I'm wondering if it's one of the reasons that the sequels weren't as successful, because by that point you know what's coming. That mystery element's been removed.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that I liked is that you feel you kind of try to understand its purpose of this creature and the psychological, because have you noticed that when he killed Mac, he was waiting for Mac to show up. He was waiting for that moment. He didn't go like he knew that Mac was haunting him, right? Or looking for him, but he knew. So he was just waiting there, just the right moment, just to shoot his head, and he just walked away. Cause that's saying this was easy. This, I mean, pretty much this person came to me, like this is nothing, and you can tell that what once is an actual good game hunt, an actual challenge of it. So he didn't do anything. I mean, Mac, he just left it there. But when you see when he faces Arnold, you notice that he was about to kill him, but he didn't right away. What he did, he looked at his skull carefully, because that's what he collects.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about the psychological thing, like what the creature thinks and what's his purpose. Why do you think it got rid of the mask and started like thinking, this is a worthy opponent, this is what I want, and this is the actual trophy that I'm going to be the most proud of to collect. And so that's how you understand how that this creature works and what's his purpose. So
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
it's a really good point. Yeah.
yeah.
So go on, Deacon.
But I was just going to say the effects, while cloaked, still hold up remarkably well for a film this age. It's really interesting, and it's been duplicated many times now in other franchises, but it still doesn't look, even with its sequels. To me, it still doesn't look as good as it does in this.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the for the time the camouflage effects are superb. I've got no argument with it at all, even watching it now. The heat vision, it's kind of what they could do at the time, but it's fine. You can believe that's what the Predator's seeing. The sort of the three lines that form a triangle, I guess sort of when you're seeing through its eyes and it's triangulating on something, I find them a little bit easy. But yeah, and the actual creature design is practical effects are second to none, really.
Yeah, I think the visual effects are really good. I mean, you never really see it fully in shot, but from what you see of Blaine's body, that is messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, it all for the most part still holds up. I think the only thing that you could look at it, kind of and think, that doesn't hold up as well is Dylan's arm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When he gets his arm blasted off and the gun's still firing.
Yeah. As Mike, I was talking with Mike the other night, and Mike was telling me that back then in the playground, all of the kids were like hiding their arm behind their back, pretending they had their arm blown off by a predator.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, going back to the sound, I mean, I don't know how your copies were, but the sound mixing on mine seemed very off-killer on my copy. The explosions and the soundtrack was very loud, but sometimes Mac was almost inaudible.
I didn't notice any issues. I've just streamed it on Disney Plus. The last couple of times I've seen it, I've got it on disc somewhere, but yeah, I just streamed it. I didn't really notice any issues.
Yeah, it weren't until he kind of lost it after Blaine's death that I could start to kind of make out he was hearing. I'm not sure if it's the settings on the copy that I've got, but it was very difficult to hear him sometimes. So I'd be turning the volume up and think, I can now understand what he would say, and then an explosion go off, and I'd be like, shit, I'm deaf.
Yeah.
And with regards to
I didn't.
And the soundtrack, the Alan Silvestri soundtrack. I mean, I remember it not being available for a good long while after the movie's release. And a friend of mine managed to get a bootleg copy on cassette. I don't know where he got it from, but he was determined he was going to set up a soundtrack empire with that one holy grail item. He was just walking around brandishing this cassette with the Predator soundtrack for months.
That's just for our younger viewers. A cassette is a format that we used to listen to audio recordings on. If you've never known the pain of a cassette being chewed up by the player, then you've never lived. But
where's a pencil? Where's a pencil?
You need a pencil for that. Yeah. I didn't know. So it was a heavily sought after item, was it? The soundtrack.
It was. Everybody was looking for the soundtrack. I remember at the time, and for the longest time you couldn't get it. I think it's a very soundtrack as well. Main riff you kind of get a little bored of towards the end because you think, okay, it's a bit overused now. But I think as soundtracks go, I think it still holds up quite well. I think it's a good score that accompanies it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it plays into the sort of the horror element of it as well. You'd say building up the suspense, but there's never some sort of military percussion far away as well. It sort of blends those genres into the soundtrack as well, I think.
Yeah.
Quite effectively. And then when there's something going on, then it's all bombastic and just out there. But yeah, it's great. And Alan Silvestri done many a soundtrack in his time, hasn't he? I don't know how far he was into his career when he did this, how much he did before, but he's certainly he's still working now, isn't he? And
I believe so. I'm going to look him up as we're talking. So vamp for a bit, Nick. Vamp.
Oh, well, now I've just completely dried up. But yeah, I mean, it soundtracks a lot of Marvel films at the moment, and that's 35 years since he did the soundtrack for this. I'm just not sure, sort of when he actually became a big name in composer circles, because he's up there with people like James Horner and John Williams, probably.
I think the first I'm looking here. The first big one he did was "Romancing the Stone."
And
that was really?
What, 84, 85?
84, yeah, and then the year after it was Back to the Future. So I'm quite surprised. I don't know why, but I got it into my head that Predator came before Back to the Future, even though I know they're both release dates. It's very odd.
Yeah, no, this is going really off topic, but yeah, that is a classic soundtrack, Back to the Future, and it's actually in my head now. So I won't sing it out loud because you'll have it in your head as well. but yeah, he's so it's quite an early one for him, really. Then,
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
mean, it's been going since 1979. No, 1972.
1972.
Yeah, and he did. He obviously went on. He's done Avengers Endgame. He's got a few coming out, so he's hanging in there, isn't he?
Yeah, man, that's been minted. At this point.
Definitely. Nice one. So, I mean, we've looked at pretty much everything. Is there anything else either of you'd like to add? Anything that you think we've not covered, or that you'd like to bring attention to before we get to our favourite aspects?
Um, I don't. There is one. Yeah, most of the stuff actually. Yeah, we've been a little bit all over the place, I think, but I've covered most of the stuff I sort of wanted to think about. I was slightly, slightly wary of going back. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, and going back to an '80s film and going, oh God, what's this going to look like now?
Yeah.
Which is always a danger from anything from the '80s, probably. But and I'm not the most qualified to speak about this, but it's not too bad actually. There's only one use of a slur in it, I
I think I
think.
know which one you're referring to. I'm not
Yeah,
going to repeat it.
no, absolutely. Me neither. And there's pretty good representation. It's on screen. The Native American character was played by someone of Native American descent, which is nice. I guess you could say it was a little on the nose, that character. It's like, oh, the Native American guy, he's the tracker. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
stereotypical, I guess. But for the time, pretty good. So it's something you could actually say to someone to watch today with little fear of them going, oh my God, what kind of monster are you? For
Yeah.
like this horrible stuff. So it holds up pretty well in that respect for me as well.
Cool. And what about you, Melina? Anything else that we've not touched on that you want to bring attention to?
I think my favorite moment definitely was the battle between Arnold and Creature, because it was, notice that there was no really dialogue there. The only word was like the "you are one ugly motherfucker." That was probably about it. But I
That's all you
love
need.
I love that Arnold Dutch was setting up a trap and getting prepared for this battle, and how the hunter became the hunted all of a sudden.
Mm.
And I absolutely love everything everything about that scene, all that sequence there, and
Mm.
definitely when the creature took off its mask and did like this cry, this battle cry, like that really wants to accept this challenge, because that's what they thrive for. That's
Yeah,
like I said before, how this creature works psychologically, what it's thinking, what its purpose is. That's my absolute um favorite moment, because there's no need to explain. There's no
yeah,
explain. There needs to be no explanation there, and it shows everything so perfectly. Um, and yeah, that's absolutely my favorite, my absolute favorite. That scene between the predator and the creature and Arnold. That fight was amazing. It really was. I mean, for
Cool.
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very very much a worthy climax to the film. I think
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. They don't need to, and they don't explain everything. Everybody knows exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But also you can kind of read into it if you like. I think because I don't know if it's intended in the script or it's just more sort of a fan theory, but you can see I can see this sort of perspective on it, that the Predator is actually this is a sort of coming of age ritual.
Yeah.
You know, go to a planet, kill some badass motherfuckers, and bring back trophies, and then you are an adult sort of thing. So he's like, and that's why he's there, and he's the Predator's there, sort of having that. So, I've just given another synopsis to the film, I think. But he's sort of an adolescent, and you can see him like, right, I'm gonna this is the main guy, and I'm gonna take off my armor and my mask, and go hand to hand with this guy, just squaring up to him, because this is where I become a man. That aspect to it as well.
It is very much kind of a masterclass in show, don't tell. You don't need any exposition, and it's like we were saying earlier, I don't think you kind of get that these days.
Yeah.
So on that note, we're going to head to our favourites. We're going to go through our favourites and go to audience participation. So we're going to go first to favourite character, and on this we'll start with Melina, then Nick, and myself. So Melina, who was your favourite character in this, and why?
I think I actually don't have a favorite character, but probably I'm gonna go with Billy. I think I'm gonna go with Billy. He actually sacrificed himself. Even if it's just, mercenaries are known as to be like cold-blooded, like we're just here to get the job done, kill, shoot to kill. And what Billy showed was not exactly going after the creature, but actually standing and saying, well, the like I call it, I see it as him sacrificing himself for his team and for the hostage who they just rescued. That's the way I see it. So maybe that's why he's my favorite.
Cool. What about you, Nick?
As I say, he has sort of like, he knows he's not going to win, but he's sort of like buying them a bit of extra time to get them to chop up. It's noble for sure. My favourite will probably be Mac. I mean, well, it's Arnie, of course, but but yeah, Mac, just because, as I said before, he's the only one who actually has any kind of emotional journey, I guess, throughout the film, and I think he plays it well. And when Blaine's dead and Arnie says that he will be remembered as a good soldier or something like that, and it's like, he was my friend. And then he goes on, has a little bit of a cry over the body. Sorry, that was a bit ridiculous, but yeah. But yeah, I like that character most, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It should be Arnie, but I've got Mac down as mine. So because just as you say, the arc, he's the only one that's got a substantial arc throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Now, favorite
None of
scene.
them really needed it, but none of them really needed it. But he's got one in there. Yeah. Sorry, go.
So I'm going to say your favorite scene. I'm guessing, Melina, yours is what you've just told us with the final battle between Arnie and the Predator.
Yes, definitely. My absolute favorite. No dialogue necessarily exchanged. The thrill of the challenge, between these two people, of a survivor. That's what the creature came for, and that's what it wanted, and I thought it was great. Bad acting as always from Arnold. It's like what was the scene? It's like, come, I'm over here.
Do it.
Over here.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Kill me. I'm here. I'm right here.
Kill me. I'm here.
Indeed. Yeah.
you can see that the creature already was, he saw, oh wait a minute, he made a little trap for me,
Yeah.
and he it fell into the trap anyway,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I and also notice that Arnold was about to smash its face with the rock,
Mm.
but he oh gosh, I can't English. I'm sorry, guys. This is the bad
Yeah.
thing about this is the bad thing about being bilingual. He had second
We're
thoughts.
from
He
Yautja. You speak
read.
better English than most people around where we're from.
No, it's just I think really fast in Spanish, and it's like I have to filter words and stuff.
Mm.
He regretted it, and I think he knew, saying like, okay, this is what the creature wanted it. He wanted to fight, and and he Arnold knew that he won. However,
Mm.
however,
Mm.
if you remember, the creature had other plans.
Yeah.
Mm.
He's like, well, I'm down, and I'm taking you with me. So I thought that part was awesome. I thought it was great. That was definitely all of it from the beginning, since with Arnold planning
Mm.
the trap till the very end of the explosion was my absolute favorite.
Cool.
Yeah,
And what about
it
you,
is.
Nick?
It is a fantastic bit of business. The whole thing. Yeah, can't disagree with you there. I'm not going to pick that as my favorite. I don't know. I've got a couple. Um, I've, I'm going to go with the Ole Painless scene where they're just all firing into the forest just because it's badass. And just the sort of end of that scene where they stop firing and then the minigun's still spinning for ages, and that I really enjoyed that bit. But possibly when Dylan gets offed, it's a really nice little action sequence, I think. Fake arm notwithstanding, but yeah, he gets his arm shot off, and then it's just the pan of the camera movement. You see the predator camouflage sort of running around, and then just shanks him. It's I
Yeah.
really like that bit. That's a sort of like, oh yes, kind of scene for me. So
Yeah.
so maybe that.
Nice one. You've kind of picked the one that I was going to choose, which is the
Oh,
shooting
sorry.
shooting into the jungle. So I think I'm going to take. I'm going to say I like the helicopter scene at the beginning. It's a good grounding for each of the characters. Never feels overly expositional to me, and doesn't outstay its welcome. As I said earlier, it's very much a Vietnam War movie sensibility, but I like it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We've mentioned it a couple of times. So yeah, it's kind of exactly how to do that kind of thing in this kind of film, really. Yeah.
Yeah. The next one, favorite line. I'm sure we probably mentioned it at some point anyway, but what's your favorite line?
Yeah, I very much. Actually, there is one on my a quite large list. I'll be honest. I'm not going to do them all, but yeah, there's quite a lot of lines in there uh, that you could mention. Yeah, they're all they're all macho lines, but they're delivered with maximum cheese and just maximum effect. But yeah, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're one ugly motherfucker. That's a great line. Um, I really like Billy's line. We're all gonna die. I think that's a less macho line, but I
Yeah.
just really like the delivery of that. But I think my favourite it's is probably it's a tour. It's a two-hander, but I ain't got time to bleed. Oh, okay. You got time to duck? That's just pure gold for me. Where it's Blaine and Poncho. Don't you remember? Yeah, he's like, you're bleeding. I ain't got time to bleed. And then he lobs a grenade at the nest. I said, okay, you got time to talk. And then boom. I
Yeah.
just really enjoy that.
I just I was just saying that my favorite line was actually I don't have time. I don't got time to bleed. That was actually my
That's Nick's also. So nice one.
Yeah,
really. It's just it's
yeah,
the most badass thing ever.
yeah. Absolutely, 100% with you on that one.
I've got to go for a different one, which is "You ain't afraid of no man," and then Billy responds, "There's something out there watching us, and it ain't no man." I love that one. I love that.
Yeah,
So what we're going to do
it's
before we go on. Sorry, mate.
badass and boding it. I was just saying it's badass and boding at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So we're going to go to what the audience says now, and then we'll go to our conclusions and score. Okay.
Mhm.
So as usual, we asked the listeners and those on social media what they thought of the movie, and we got several responses to this. At Kamosi Mills on Twitter says, "I love the movie and can't wait for the latest sequel, Prey." While over on Letterboxd, PLD says, "Just a great comfort movie, mindless action, humour, and great characters. Peak Arnold." While Lordly Kicker says, "Iconic. There are noticeable mistakes, but still a great movie and great introduction to the Predator." Picking up a couple of random reviews off there from the other end of the spectrum, Lucy says, "It's an 80s slasher film, but the killer is an alien and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the final girl." Lisa says,
not wrong.
"Yeah, no." Lisa says, "Macho Nacho lads running away from a tourist."
That's great.
also not wrong. But
No.
yeah.
And we've also had some responses from the guys in the Screen Talk Facebook group. So if you're into movies, please look them up. Chris Beaver says, "I think it's pretty fucking flawless. I remember Dad bringing it home on VHS and 9-year-old me loving the shit out of it, and I still do 35 years later." Justin Williams states it's one of his favourite action movies. If it wasn't for True Lies, this would be his favourite Arnold movie, but as it stands, it's a close second. And Dennis O'Carroll says, "I watched it again not too long ago. It still does the business after all these years. My favourite scene is when they let rip into the jungle with everything they've got." Sounds familiar. Utter madness. How any of the sequels have failed to live up to the original is incredible. However, with the conclusion of this episode's audience participation section, we're going to be introducing a new feature on the Silver Screen podcast, which we're calling "What Film Are You Watching?" The winner of which will receive the soon-to-be-coveted Hot Take Award, our version of the famous No Prize. It's going to be presented to the one review that seems so outlandish that it could only be described as a hot take. And this inaugural feature will be presenting it to Mintavine from Letterboxd, who says that Predator is useful only in that it made Tropic Thunder seem even funnier and Overlord seem like Citizen Kane. So that's certainly a view. So for that unique,
That is a hot take.
The Silver Screen podcast is proud to award Mintervan with our first Hot Take Award. Congratulations. It just reminded me actually, just a quick aside, going back to what PLD says in his review about it being mindless fun. It's an interesting point actually, and it gets glossed over from time to time. It is mindless fun. I mean, most of the action movies from that year could be classed as such. But do you think that referring to them as such degrades them? I mean, can something even those that love and call mindless fun be considered art?
Yes. To the last part of that question, absolutely can be considered art. I believe that about all movies. Art is subjective. Art is something that evokes an emotion. So, and that's up to anybody else to decide. I'm not going to get into a whole what is art, what isn't thing.
No.
But,
I just wondered what your impressions were.
But yeah, I mean, it's mindless fun to a certain extent. I don't think it's entirely mindless fun. I think it's probably at the upper boundary of that definition for me. I mean, I'd say Commando, I think is a good comparison. I would say Commando is probably 80s action cinema in its purest form, where it's basically just straight ahead. that what it is. I think Predator does a little more for me, not just because it's got the sci-fi twist on it and the horror twist, but yeah, I think it's a little bit better for me. I'm not saying, absolutely not saying it's Citizen Kane, but yeah, I don't think lumping it in with something. Yeah, I love Commando as well. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't put them in the same exact category. It's a bit nuanced, I guess, but yeah, I don't know.
And what about you, Melina? You got any thoughts on that?
About the mindless fun part?
Even if it's considered mindless fun, would you consider these kind of movies art? I mean, no one goes into these things expecting to watch a Shakespeare play, but would you say they're valid as a form of artwork?
Yes, because art means expression. That's what it means. It's art. Art is a form of expression. Art can be, and it doesn't have to be painting. It can be a form of writing, a book. It could be making a movie. It is art as it is because whether it's good or bad art, that's your decision. But it is art because it's it's the director had this thought and he executed and that's a form of expression and he's showing his talent of what he can do as a director, so hence it's art. It is, and the part of the mindless fun, I don't know about the mindless fun thing, but maybe because you don't have to put so much thought into it, it doesn't need to. The movie, it shows you exactly, what it is, what's going on. Maybe that's what it means about mindless fun. But it is overall fun movie. And it's not just the fun part, but it's you have to appreciate the thought put into this and the directing and the camera style and the cinematography as well, the technology. I mean, we're talking about 1987. It's the editing. I love the editing. Some of the editings they can be like, cut everything like that, but it doesn't. It's such a perfect timing way. I'm sorry, I'm babbling, but
No.
but it is that to me, everything what I just said, that it is art. He wanted to show what he can do as a director, and he proved it with this movie.
Nice one.
That-
That's fantastic. And so what we're going to do now is go to our conclusions and your score out of 5 for the movie. So we'll go to you first, Melina. What's your conclusion for the movie, and what would you give it out of 5?
I'm actually gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I am. Conclusion of it, everything that I said before. It is a good movie that it has cheesy one-liners. To me, it doesn't bother me. It's great. It's a great action film, a great action / sci-fi film.
Nice
That's
one.
it.
And you, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an enormous amount to say in my conclusion, but yeah, I echo what Melina said. Definitely, it's a great action movie. It's a great 80s action movie, and it's a great movie still today. It does put very few feet wrong, and most of those feet it puts very right. That was slightly tortured metaphor, but yeah, it's difficult to sort of, because it's I'm so familiar with it, so it's difficult to be objective about it, and it's kind of interesting to know what somebody coming to it now would make of it. But I'd like to think it would stand up. It does for me. It's an easy watch. That's probably the difference I've made between sort of mindless. I would say it's a very easy watch, not because it's dumb necessarily, but because you don't need to exercise too much effort to understand what's going on. As we've said, it makes it very clear very easily. So yeah, it's really solid. I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Nice one. Right. I'll read my conclusion. I wrote it down earlier, so forgive me if it waffles on a bit. But this movie came and went originally before I knew it, and I was a little late to the party, but I've watched it numerous times since then, and each time I've enjoyed it immensely. From personal experience, it shouldn't be the case, as it's pretty much everything I hated about movies back in the 80s, but it worked then and it works now. It's perhaps a fortuitous confluence of events as each element has the tendency to derail the thing, from that overdone Vietnam allegory to its use of action hero staples and a plotline from a 50s B movie. On paper, it looks like a Corman movie, but every person working on the production did such a great job in their respective field, it hits it out of the park completely. A feat doubly impressive when you consider the numerous struggles the production went through as it was translated from script to screen. The acting, although not exactly stretching the performer's range, is competent enough, with everyone playing their parts well. And while the setting is relatively mundane, the sharp script, pacing, editing, and direction lift it above its mediocre foundations. The visual effects build upon this and use sparingly create a sense of tension that, in a rarity for a film of this type, pays off at the end with the reveal of the exquisitely designed creature. Okay, thank you. Considering it's an action movie, a Schwarzenegger vehicle, no less, produced during the 80s, a glut of these things, which back then you pretty much couldn't move for. It's very much of its time. However, compared to other movies from that era, the skill involved in its production has seen it rise head and shoulders above its competitors. And with its setting and limited use of what would be considered cutting-edge technology, it's aged a lot better than some of his action movie brothers. Since its release, it's outgrown that macho guys with guns stereotype to some extent, despite it being a film that heavily features macho guys with guns. To many, it's a cinematic classic, and although I don't quite personally share that view, I do think it's a good enough creature feature and has earned its place among the iconic sci-fi movie franchises out there. And like Nick, I've also gave it 4 out of 5. So, bear with me. So, working out the average score between us,
I feel like it's not going to be an easy number.
it's 4.333 recurring out of a possible 5. So, but it's not the most awkward score we've ever had on there. So, I'll take it.
Do we round up? Is it a 4.5 or does it say?
No, this is silver screen, mate. We just leave it as that.
Fair enough.
So I
can appreciate that. No problem.
Yeah, I think we've had some really weird scores in here in the past. Just out of curiosity, I'm guessing you guys have seen the sequels. Just without going into it too much, in case we use it in a future show, just wondering what your thoughts were on any sequels to this film.
That's
pretty much perfect.
Yeah. I was going to say I've seen Predator 2. I did see that one at the cinema, and for that reason among others, I've got quite a fondness for it. I quite like Predator 2. I think if anything, it's more quotable than the original.
Yeah,
but not superior to it. Predator's definitely the best. Other than that, I have seen Alien versus Predator, if that counts.
Mm-hmm.
I may or may not have seen Alien versus Predator 2, and the fact that I can't remember probably gives you some indication of how strongly I feel about it.
I think maybe you've been traumatized to such an extent your brain's blanked it.
That has occurred to me that I have seen it, but my brain's just said nope and completely deleted it from my recollection. But yeah, and I haven't seen however many others there were since that. So yeah, not seen a great deal. I'm probably will watch the new one because it's out today, probably. I don't know if you can work that into
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. But yeah, I'll probably watch that because it's on Disney Plus. So nice and easy.
Nice one. So there we've got it. You've heard our thoughts on the movie. If you have anything to add, please contact us either on our social media accounts, which can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd under Silver Screen Podcast, our Twitter, which is @podcast_screen, or leave a comment on our YouTube channel. And if you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share, and also check out our other episodes. Also, if you've got anything you'd like to share with us regarding the discussion we've had today, what you think, do you agree or disagree, then please again hit us up and leave a comment, and we'll try and discuss your points on the next show. I'd also encourage you to check out our sister podcast dedicated to all things Star Trek. That's the Hit or Miss podcast, which, like the Silver Screen, can be found under Mike's Podcasts on YouTube, as well as Apple, Google, Spotify, and everywhere you download your podcasts. Please check that out. Our new season's about to start, with the theme this time being time travel. How about you both? Do you've got anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere the listeners can reach you? Your Twitter, Melina?
You can find me Melina Vader. That's my Twitter. Also, you can find me on my YouTube. I've been trying to work for a little bit, more videos, and I'm trying to. If you guys missed it, there I did with DK the Amityville Horror was my first episode of the Friday Fright Night Friday, because that's what I kind of want to do every Friday, is talk about everything horror movies. I talk a little bit about everything, Doctor Who, and movies, any shows, anything. So yeah, I'm just the Puerto Rican geek. That's me.
Nice one. And how about you, Nick? You got anything you want to plug? Any way people can get in touch with you?
Neither really. I have no no real social things and nothing to plug. But if people would like to send me money anyway, that would be absolutely fine by me. I'm just joking. Don't send me any money.
And as usual, I can be found on Twitter @AKStarlord for if you feel the urge to get in touch, send hate mail, that kind of thing. And don't forget, my inane ramblings can usually be found on trekkies.live or warpfactortrek.com. I'm also now, thanks to a tremendous amount of peer pressure from Mike and Will, on Letterboxd. So please do check those out if you're so inclined. I'll make sure we put the links in the description along with the links to Melina's broadcasts. The new Predator movie, Prey, is released this week, tomorrow, I think, on Disney Plus. Didn't write that before. So hopefully that will be a decent one. Are you guys looking forward to it?
I don't know that I would sound. Yeah, there's just overwhelming enthusiasm and excitement there. Yeah, man, I'm so hyped.
I think it's safe to say that after the sequels we've had so far, the bar is not extremely high.
Yeah, I don't have high expectations, but I'll watch it, and I think it can only be good. Well, it can only be a pleasant surprise, or absolutely bloody dreadful. One of those two.
Cool. Well, once again, if any of you out there have any thoughts on Prey once it's released, please do get in touch. Let us know what you think. Our next episode will be a couple of weeks from now, where Mike and I will be joined by guest Charles Dawson as we take a look at the animated DC film Justice Society World War II. So please, as usual, if you've got any thoughts on that one, drop us a line. We've put our threads on social media, so feel free to rant or refuse over that one to your heart's content. And also, just to remind any of you out there that don't know, the Silver Screen Podcast is proud to be part of the network promoting the What Choice fundraiser. What Choice is a campaign to protect choice and bodily autonomy. They're raising money for the National Abortion Federation that not only helps clinics against increasing attacks and violence, they also offer a multilingual hotline for support as well as funds for procedures and travel. So please, if this situation means something to you, check out the link in our description and, give whatever you feel you can. Thank you. All that's left to say is thank you to our guests for joining us today. So thank you, Melina.
Sorry.
It's okay. And thank you to you, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you both enjoy your time here today?
Very much so. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It was, yeah, it was a good fun discussion.
Nice one. You, Melina?
I laughed a couple of times to say yes.
Fantastic.
It's a good
So
sign.
So thank you both, and a big thank you to everyone listening today. We're glad you could join us. We hope to see you next time. And remember, in the words of Arnie, to the chopper!